Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week we're going to be talking about portable kerosene heaters, and we'd like to thank Robert Scott for liking and sharing the podcast. And this week we have an interview with Easy Breathe about garage air quality. In the 1840s, geologist and medical doctor Abraham Gessner distilled coal to create a clear fluid that he called kerosene. He found it was a better lamp fuel than using sperm whale oil or fat-based fluids to light lamps. Oil refineries started making kerosene in the late 1800s, and it became popular for lamp fuel for portable lights that police would carry. Ship lights, street lamps, lighthouses, and car lights.
Interesting.
Kerosene stoves and heaters also became popular at the time. In France, a kerosene lamp was knocked over onto a dirty tablecloth, and after wiping it up, they found it made a good cleaning solvent, which started research in dry cleaning fluids.
Huh. Oh, no.
With more people planning on spending time in a garage for get-togethers or using the garage for a workshop, I thought we'd go over some tips if you're thinking about purchasing a kerosene heater for your garage. There are three main types of portable kerosene heaters: convection, radiant, and forced air. Convection and radiant kerosene heaters that you find in a home center or a hardware store are generally circular or square in shape, and they're not going to require electric to work, although most will have batteries to light the heater. But you can also use a lighter to light it.
Okay.
This type of kerosene heater is good as an emergency source of heat if your home doesn't have power, or you can also use it for camping. A forced air kerosene heater needs to be plugged into an outlet for it to work. A convection style heater is heating the air. You have a wick that's sucking up kerosene from the tank. When you light the wick, it creates heat. The convection kerosene heaters that I saw at home centers were between 10 and 20,000 BTUs.
Is that good?
Fantastic for a garage. Radiant heaters have a reflector or some type of material that's absorbing the heat from a burning wick, and then it's emitting electromagnetic waves that warm up objects in its path. If you're in front of a radiant heater, you're immediately going to feel warm, and objects in front of it are going to absorb heat. This is good for smaller areas. If you're working in front of it, you can have more air circulation without feeling cold. If you're having a few people in your garage, though, or trying to warm a large area, convection is going to be better. Radiant heaters are good for drafty, uninsulated spaces or areas with high ceilings. The radiant heaters I saw were all around 10,000 BTUs.
Okay.
Forced air kerosene heaters are going to be more complex. They need to be plugged into a grounded outlet. They have a fan, a pump, a flame control system. Some have electronics and digital displays. You're going to have more maintenance with this style of heater. The heaters I saw ranged from 50,000 BTUs to 200,000 BTUs. So these are great for large spaces or patios. I would also compare the decibels when you're looking at this type of heater. Some can be very loud.
Really?
Yeah. A two-car garage usually averages in size from 18 to 20 feet to 24 to 30 feet for most homes. An 18 by 20 foot garage is 360 square feet. A 24 by 30 foot garage is 720 square feet. 10,000 BTUs will heat around 500 square feet. 20,000 BTUs will heat around 1,000 square feet. A 10,500 BTU DuraHeat convection kerosene heater I looked at says will heat up to 450 square feet. It holds 1.1 gallons of kerosene, and it has a 12-hour runtime. I looked at a 23,000 BTU Sengoku HeatMate convection heater. They said this heats up to 1,000 square feet. It has a 1.9 gallon tank with a 12-hour runtime. And DuraHeat is D-U-R-A, capital H-E-A-T. Sengoku is S-E-N-G-O-K-U. I looked at the manual for a DuraHeat 23,000 BTU kerosene heater. They said the area needs to be well ventilated where you're using their heater. If you're using this in a small room with less than 200 square feet, you need to open a door or window to the outside, and it should be open at least 1 inch to guard against a potential buildup of indoor air pollution. I looked at a 50,000 BTU forced air kerosene heater from Mr. Heater. They say this will heat up to 1,250 square feet. It has a 4-gallon tank with an 11-hour runtime. They say it's great for a workshop or a garage, and this will work on kerosene, diesel, or fuel oil. Crazy, huh? I also looked at the manual for Mr. Heater, and Mr. Heater is MR, capital Heater. They said when you're using a forced air kerosene heater like this, you need to have adequate ventilation. They're recommending a 2 square foot opening near the floor and a 2 square foot opening near the ceiling. But check the manual for your specific model. The manual for a Dynaglow forced air heater I looked at said make sure you have at least a 3 square foot opening for a 100,000 BTU heater. They're recommending if you have a 100,000 BTU heater and you're in a 1-car garage, raise the door 9 inches. If you have a 2-car garage, you can raise the door 6 inches. But you should check the manual for the recommendations for your heater.
Doesn't that defeat the purpose?
Yeah, some of these forced air heaters are pretty powerful, so it's going to stay warm. It's funny, though. You look at the packaging, and it really doesn't talk a lot about, hey, keep the garage door open 6 inches on the box. And then this is kind of buried in the manual. So you really need to do some homework when you're looking at these kinds of heaters.
Okay.
All of the manuals I looked at recommended only using 1K kerosene for their heaters. I read an article in the Sciencing website. 1K kerosene is the purest form of kerosene. It should be clear or slightly yellow. They recommend avoiding red dyed kerosene if you're burning it inside. 2K kerosene should only be burned in appliances with a flue because the fumes that are released can be dangerous. 2K kerosene will not burn properly with a wick. It will require frequent cleaning and maintenance and could potentially cause a fire or an explosion. Because kerosene is pretty powerful. Kerosene was used for jet fuel and rocket fuel.
Really?
Yeah, interesting, huh? Store your kerosene in the original container or a can rated for kerosene. In our upcoming ebook, Book 13, we have a whole chapter all about gas cans, the new codes and tips.
Yeah, very exciting.
I know. So you've got that to look forward to soon. Almost ready to get it to the editor.
Did you say the gas can should be blue?
If you're storing kerosene in a can, it should be blue. Red is for gas. Yellow is for diesel. I spoke to a rep from Scepter. It's SCEPTER. If you plan on having large amounts of kerosene, or if you're going to store it for emergencies, you can store it in a 5-gallon container. They have a 5-gallon kerosene can that you can take to the gas station and have it filled up. Their can has a narrow spout, so it's easier to fill a heater. It has squeeze control to manage the flow and a built-in flame mitigation system for safety. Some other top-rated cans come from Midwest Can and Garage Boss. Eagle and Just Right have metal safety cans, and Just Right is JUSTRITE. The National Kerosene Heater Association doesn't recommend storing kerosene in the heater during the off-season. They say it can collect water. They're recommending burning off the kerosene and then pour out any remaining onto concrete and allow it to evaporate, or use a siphon pump to remove the fuel. I looked at some of the labels from a couple manufacturers, and I didn't see any recommendations for how long you can store their kerosene. The Provident Prepper website says kerosene has a shelf life of 5 years in the original container or an approved container. And Provident Prepper is PROVIDENT, Prepper, PREPPER.
Is there like a date on a can of kerosene?
I didn't see, from the labels I looked at, I didn't see any
That's how we
dates.
could know.
Yeah, and you're hoping home centers or hardware stores are rotating their stock.
You should see if there's any dust on it.
Yeah, there you go. Kerosene heaters produce carbon monoxide and other pollutants, so you should have a CO detector on every level of your home and outside sleeping areas. If you're going to be using a kerosene heater regularly in your garage for projects, a CO alarm in the garage with a digital readout will help let you know if you have adequate ventilation. You should also have a fire extinguisher in your garage that's easy to get to. An ABC rated fire extinguisher is the most versatile. A means it'll put out paper, cloth, and trash fires. B is for flammable liquids, and C is for electrical fires. Kidde, it's KIDDE, and First Alert both have top-rated CO detectors and fire extinguishers. Some of the common recommendations I saw in the manuals I looked at for convection and radiant kerosene heaters: only use 1K kerosene. Never refill the unit while it's on or hot. Allow 15 minutes for it to cool off first. Never use the unit near flammable liquids or vapors. Always refill the unit outside, never in a living space. When you're comparing heaters, some of them have the tank underneath the unit, so it's part of the unit, so you're just removing a cap and filling it.
Okay.
But some of these heaters will have a tank that you can remove, fill it outside, and then put it back into the unit.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's easier. Never allow the unit to run unattended. Never use the unit to dry objects. And don't operate the unit without the heat guard on it. The models that I looked at that had wicks to control the heat, they say the room temperature can't be adjusted by raising or lowering the wick. It's either on or it's off.
Okay.
Because if you raise the wick too high, you can actually damage the wick. They're saying if the room temperature is too high, just increase the room ventilation or turn it off.
Right.
Never use gasoline. It can cause a flare-up and a fire. Always have a fire extinguisher in the area and a smoke alarm, although now the new recommendation for garages is a heat alarm rather than a smoke detector. You're going to get less false alarms. Never operate the heater in a doorway or a windy space. Never operate your heater with the wick lower than the recommended height. So they're saying this can cause more air pollution.
Why is it adjustable?
Because it slowly breaks down, so you have to keep raising it.
No.
So it's at the right height. And in the manuals I looked at, they all had a section on wick maintenance, so I would take a look at that to keep your wick in good condition.
Okay.
Most of the units I looked at wanted you to keep 36 inches away from combustible material, but it's going to be farther for forced air heaters. Keep the unit away from children and confirm that the flame is extinguished before you leave the heater unattended. Some top-rated kerosene heaters come from Sengoku. It's Sengoku. Duraheat, D-U-R-A, capital H-E-A-T, and Dynaglow, D-Y-N-A, capital G-L-O. Some top-rated forced air kerosene heaters: Mr. Heater, DeWalt, Dynaglow, and Stanley. We spoke to Erica from Easy Breathe about ventilation for an attached garage. Erica, how you doing?
I'm doing well today. How are you, JC?
Real good, thank you. Cindy and I are going to be talking about kerosene heaters, and you have a system that can help with the air quality in your garage?
Correct. Yes. We have an Easy Breathe garage ventilation system specifically designed for the challenges we find in attached garages. What we find in garages, that's some of the worst air in the home. When we talk about pollutant sources for indoor air quality, the garage is one of the top 3 contaminant sources that actually pollute the home. So if we can exchange the air and reverse the airflow from garage air being sucked into the house, because that's typically how it works, the garage air ends up migrating into the home. So what the Easy Breathe garage system does is change that airflow. So we're actually taking the garage air and moving it to the outside. Some of the studies that we've been referencing over the years indicate, 75% of the carbon monoxide detectors that go off in a home can be traced back to what was going on in the garage. Those detectors are in the house. So what happens is that air migrates into the house and then it causes trouble. So, we've got folks that have living spaces above the garage. We have folks that have living spaces attached to the back or the sides of the garage. So those spaces are very much affected by the garage air polluting the inside indoor environment. So as people tend to use their garages more, we want to make sure that not only are we protecting that nasty garage air from migrating and polluting the indoor air inside, but also create an environment that is healthy for those people looking for expanded living space, a man cave, art studio,
Sure.
a place where the kids can go play. Everyone's looking for more space these days in their home, and the garage tends to be, a low-hanging fruit there.
And what does your system look like?
The garage system mounts onto the wall. You don't really want it mounted in the first couple feet because there can be debris and leaves and whatnot that blow in. So we want the exhaust to be, somewhere on that wall. So some folks like it at the very top because then it captures a lot of the heat. So the garage system will help evacuate and help temperature balance out those spaces that get very, very hot. You can put it pretty much anywhere you'd like, but anywhere above 4 feet up on the wall is what we typically, suggest.
And this is something that a homeowner could install themselves?
Yes. We offer it two different ways. We offer it with professional installation, or we offer it as a self-install kit. Handy homeowners usually have no problem installing these. When I was talking about the debris, everyone has to blow the leaves out of their garage, right? You don't open up your garage and things just blow out, right? The garage sucks things in. And especially right now, with all where I live, all the leaves are falling off the trees. And every time we open the garage, leaves are blowing in and we're having to blow them out. So that's just indicative of how the garage works. So garages suck and then the house sucks it from the garage into the house. So we just want to prevent that transmission of contaminants from garage into the home.
So if a homeowner is heating, let's say you're in a cool climate and you're using a space heater or a kerosene or propane heater in your garage, would your system be able to give you enough ventilation for better air quality?
Absolutely. This can be, you can keep your garage heated, but allowing for the exhaust of any sort of those gases that may build up. That's exactly what the Easy Breathe does, whether it be from the heater or from the off-gassing of any vehicle. A vehicle that we pull into our garage, we turn it off, it will off-gas for over 6 hours, a heated engine. So it's not just the metals, it's the gaskets and the rubber, and then you've got the off-gassing of the gasoline. And one of the byproducts of that is called benzene. Benzene is a carcinogen, and there is no safe level. So cars will off-gas for hours and hours, and eventually it fills up the garage, and then that air enters the home. So the Easy Breathe garage system will take all of those off-gassing chemicals from all of the rubbers and the gasoline and the metals, and it will evacuate it to the outside. And the same goes for people that are in a colder climate. And let's say they open the garage door and they start their car and they let it warm up before they actually get in the car. Well, starting the car, even with the garage door open, like we talked about, the garage is sucking air in, and then your home is sucking the air from the garage. Again, ventilating that space when you're starting the vehicle and all of those emissions and contaminants and pollutants, we don't want them being absorbed into the home. We have a testimonial of a woman that said that she has an in-law suite on the back of her daughter's house. And every night when her son-in-law backs his car into the garage, their carbon monoxide detector would go off. She said because their solution was just to move the carbon monoxide detector to a different part of their space. And we get those calls all the time, whether it be the children's playroom or their bedroom above the garage, and they notice that they may be feeling sick or ill, or they're coughing in their sleep, and maybe it's something from the garage. So, ventilating any space where contaminants are produced will just inevitably make the entire structure healthier.
Yeah, scary, having
Right.
living space right above a garage.
Absolutely. And not just the vehicles, but everything we store in the garage.
Right.
That's where we put the most contaminated stuff. We don't want it in our house or in our basement or in our closet. So we're storing gasoline, maybe fertilizer, pesticides,
Sure.
paint cans. You name it, the nasty stuff that we store in the garage. So allowing a path of escape for these contaminants will inevitably make your home a healthier place to be.
And this is something that's running continuously?
Yes, absolutely. In the garage, we recommend continuous mechanical ventilation.
And this is what the EPA is recommending now.
Yeah, absolutely. There are certain codes across the country, mostly in northern climates where we have a lot of attached garages, that are mandating any new home built with an attached garage must have a garage ventilation system to be compliant with the building code. So, they're recognizing how the garage is affecting the structure in a very negative way.
Yeah, very interesting. And it seems like a very simple solution to kind of a dangerous problem.
Yes, we've been saying that for years. We are a very simple solution to what is a very complex problem. Whether we're talking about basements or crawl spaces or garages, we have solutions for all of these areas that just create such a conundrum for homeowners on how to properly treat these spaces so that they're not a contaminant source to the air you breathe in your home. And really, the best way is oftentimes the simplest. If we allow air to become stagnant and allow it to absorb everything that's off-gassing within that space, it gets contaminated, and the concentrations of those contaminants get higher and higher and higher, and eventually threatening the health and the safety of the people around them.
Yeah, very interesting. And if we want to learn more about your Easy Breathe system, where would we go?
EasyBreathe.com. That is our website. That's EZ, that's letter E, letter Z. The word breathe, BREATHE.com. And specifically, the garage ventilation system. There's a whole part of our site dedicated to our garage system.
Well, I appreciate your time, Erica.
Anytime, JC. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.
That was a great interview.
I really like the continuous ventilation systems. I think it's just an easy way to keep your home healthier.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add?
If you're just working on projects in your garage, a small radiant heater is going to do a good job of keeping you warm. If you want to heat a large area, and if you're going to have a lot of people in your garage, then a convection heater is going to do a better job. But the key thing is making sure you have adequate ventilation.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, or your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our ebooks, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, books 1 through 12 on Amazon.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow Cindy on Twitter @FixitCohost, and you can follow us on Instagram, Fix It Home Improvement.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.